The marketing world is in a very different place now than it was 5 years ago. It's very much in the consumer's hands, and the more in which you empower both your community, but also the employees at which are at your business to try and look at what's actually happening on the streets, in the grassroots environment, probably the better advocacy that you'll build.
Have you ever wondered why some brands grow exponentially, building legions of passionate fans that live and die by their logos, and some, well, don't? I do, all the time. And that's probably because I'm a massive brand nerd, but I believe there's a secret sauce at the core of every remarkable brand, a formula that sparks the growth of passionate communities of superfans, building a business and a reputation that will last for years to come. My name is Paul Archer, and I'm a specialist in brand advocacy and word of mouth, having consulted for hundreds of brands on a topic.
Hey, it's Verity here, your co-host of the Building Brand Advocacy podcast.
In this podcast, we tap into the greatest marketing minds in the world as they share the exact tactics and strategies used to build the world's greatest brands, dropping actionable insights every brand builder can apply.
We've got some incredible guests coming up, sharing insights and tips that can truly shift the marketing landscape. If you want to be the first to hear, make sure you hit that follow button. The more people following the show, the bigger and better we can make it. So if you're loving what you hear, don't forget to follow and spread the word. Thanks again for listening. It really means a lot. I hope you enjoy this next episode.
It's time to learn and build brand advocacy.
Hello and welcome to Building Brand Advocacy. Today I'm super excited to chat to the incredible Henry Hayes. He is the head of marketing at Passionfruit, and he's also probably better known as the comedy content machine. Henry, welcome.
Hi, Verity. How you doing? The comedy content machine. Yeah. I love that. There we are. I often get told people say comedian. I really don't like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, because comedians I see as like the purists in the space, the stand-ups, people who've been kind of the journeymen and women, of the UK and beyond. Whereas, content creator, content machine is great.
I'm glad I got that right.
You got that right.
Nailed it.
There we are. We're off to a good start.
Henry, just obviously a little bit of intro there, but obviously I want to hear it from you. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and Passionfruit.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I'm Henry. I'm 30. I got married 2 months ago. Big up. Ring on the finger.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And I suppose like people may know me now outside of work and stuff I do on Instagram and TikTok. I do sort of observational comedy, mainly focused around Londoners, like sort of gentrified Londoners, but starting to spring out into doing more stuff, impersonations of social media personalities, stuff like that. Actually, I do have a 9 to 5, or actually it's a bit more intense than that, which a lot of people outside of work don't really know, is that I actually head up the marketing for Passionfruit. Passionfruit, we're a Series A scale up that is basically a freelance marketing platform. And what we do is we basically find and source the very best freelance marketing talent for the very best marketing leaders all around the world in brands. So CMOs, marketing directors of the likes of PepsiCo, Mars, AB InBev, HSBC. And the reason or the rationale behind it is it's kind of a disruptor to the agency model.
Yeah.
Okay, so we believe, as is the way now with modern marketing, that actually it's become a lot more specialized, but also businesses need more of a plug and play model as and when they decide to try and scale up or scale down a particular channel. And that's where Passionfruit comes as a solution to people. And it's kind of going from strength to strength at the moment. And I've got the very weird and wonderful role of being the head of marketing within a marketing business that's trying to transform the way in which marketing companies are being ran. Very
How many
meta.
times can you say marketing in one sentence?
Exactly. Yeah, and we're on a marketing podcast, so there we are. That's me really in a nutshell.
Brilliant. You mentioned a lot of things there that I really want to dig into. But first of all, I want to kind of dig into how you kind of create the internal backbone of the structure, particularly around creating advocacy within those internal teams. What do you think is the first thing that brands need to implement internally to lay the groundwork for like consistent, credible advocacy?
It's a very good question. I think the first thing to say is that the marketing world is in a very different place now than it was 5 years ago. It's a hell of a lot more complex. And 5 years ago, a lot of money was being spent into Google and Meta, and that would buy you basically bargaining power and chips for you to be able to be seen on these sorts of search engines. Okay. Nowadays, things are being played out a lot more in fringe communities. And I always use an adage or a term that a kid anywhere in the world could basically do a short form 20-second TikTok on a pair of Nike shoes, and that could have way more impact than a whole Nike campaign that has been put forward by, I don't know, Wyden and Kennedy or WPP or whatever like that. So I think the first thing I would say is that people really need to acknowledge now that brands necessarily aren't in charge of their own destination. Okay. It's very much in the consumer's hands, and the more in which you empower both your community, but also the employees at which are at your business to try and look at what's actually happening on the streets in a grassroots environment, probably the better advocacy that you'll build from that.
So are you noticing, like, obviously the brands that are coming to you and obviously this plug and play kind of marketing structure, are they already bought into this kind of new way of, I don't know if it's a new way of marketing or just obviously how it shifted, or is it something that you're having to have conversations about best practices? And
it's a brilliant question. I think there's two ways of looking at this. Yes, there are at big enterprise businesses, PepsiCo, Mars, companies we work with that are very old school, but also marketing champions.
Yeah.
The CMOs of those businesses may not understand how they need it, but they know what they need. And they know that things are being played out by younger generations and at a speed of culture that is just atypical to how they were brought up, with their MBAs and the way that a campaign is structured. So in that regard, they know what they kind of know what they need, but they don't know how to execute it. And that's where Passionfruit can come in. So an example of that would be, we operate across the whole marketing mix.
Yeah.
So basically anything that isn't development, which is not marketing, that is just tech stack builders.
Yeah.
But everything from UI right through to organic social. So performance, SEO, copywriting, heads of marketing, content creators, TikTok, Meta, like you name it. And an example would be in the social space, a company like PepsiCo have decided to use Passionfruit, a Passionfruit pod. So a Passionfruit content creators then go out into their own networks and then get their fellow content creators to make not just one piece of content, but 5 or 10 pieces of content. And then that comes back in to a specialist who then serves that out on places. So you basically effectively have more shots on goal.
Yeah.
And we're a big believer in that. So that's one end. You then do have, particularly more in sort of the scale up space, and maybe in mid-market enterprise spaces as well, where agencies that companies have been working with are quite rigid. They maybe are put onto particular retainers for particular areas, let's call it performance marketing, where they know that they've got a 6-month sprint in this area.
Yeah.
We often make sure when we're in that buying process, just to ensure that we get as many touch points with as many senior individuals as possible, not just the marketing director, the CMOs, but if it's a scale up, the CEO or the founder as well. And that often helps our case.
Yeah. I love the pod example because I was at an event in New York, I think it was at the Lead, and there was MAC Cosmetics were on stage, and they were talking exactly about that's how they have to operate with these in-house pods, because they're like you said, the culture piece, the speed of like content, just getting things out there, just being like relevant and things. So they were talking about they have in-house pods for lots of different areas because that is the only way they can operate to like get this machine going. So, yeah, I was just really intrigued by that.
Exactly that. Yeah, we were actually at the Lead Summit as well. It was like back end of May, wasn't it? I think, we did an event there. But yeah, it couldn't be more important to move.
Oh, I met some of your guys.
Yes, you met probably Guy.
Yes.
Guy with the massive hair.
Yeah, I did.
You can't miss him. He's our head of North America. We've just opened up a New York office now, which is really cool. And he's leading the mission over there. But yeah, it kind of goes... It's the same in B2B marketing as well. Like B2B, everyone goes, boring's boring. But, we're really trying to champion a lot of our B2B businesses at the moment to think at the speed of culture and believe that they can do it in traditional B2B channels. So newsletters or LinkedIn, we're seeing a real change and adoption in how people perceive LinkedIn nowadays. And I am the biggest champion of inherently bringing a D2C mindset into B2B. I don't actually watch any B2B content, like apart from the stuff that we do.
And us.
Yeah, like I look at what's happening on TikTok, look at what's happening on Instagram, look at what's happening in out of home billboards and stuff that you're seeing in a consumer environment. And I just think, right, well, let's try and adopt that to B2B, because ultimately the people that are on LinkedIn, and they're on LinkedIn way, way more every day than they're on Instagram and TikTok. They literally have got it up as a tab.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone there, because I really do think that you will be. So, but they're craving the feeling of like fun or entertainment or education, but you don't have to just wait for it to be on Instagram or TikTok or when you're having a few drinks down the pub after work. You can like kind of stitch that into the everyday fabric. So yeah.
I 100% agree, because it comes down to also how you consume content as well.
Yeah.
Like as the consumer, as whoever, as, you know, I think about, you know, if you're trying to reach fashion and beauty brands and you're coming across as like this B2B corporate stuffy kind of like you can't relate to them, then they're never going to be brought in and engaged by anything that you're doing. So for me, like this is everything that I preach as well. So love it.
Nice.
On that, how do you think that marketing teams should... What do you think is the best kind of structure internally? Like who kind of owns the advocacy piece as well within that?
Yeah, so I would say it all comes down to mindset, number one. And number two, really pushing forward a mission statement that everyone feels aligned on. So I don't believe that marketing teams should be rigid in the sense that, you know, generalist marketers, let's say, because to be fair with us, we've got 3 in-house generalist marketers, myself, Eleanor, Elsie, but then we've got 10 freelancers. And the way that I would adopt marketing going forward and the way that I hope people do is you've got this like really good generalist marketing bunch. And I don't think that their roles should be that different. They can kind of mediate in between. What's the most important thing for them is that they've all got a North Star that they all believe in. And our one is basically to be the trendsetter or be the tastemaker in the golden era of B2B marketing.
Yeah.
That's what I want, and that's what we all collectively want. And so you basically, if you push that, then, you know, Elsie's really into athletics. Go and make some really cool content about athletics. She also runs up our commuter club, which is our events program. We do 22 events a quarter, and she does really great suppers and stuff like that, and breakfast, and really brings that into her work every day, just to think outside the blob. Eleanor helps Elsie with that and does all of our like copy and outbound to get people to the events. But then she's also now in content with me. And you know, Eleanor and I, she came to me with a really great idea the other day and said, actually, it's Pride and Prejudice's 20-year anniversary coming up. They're going to make a Netflix show on it. You know, she's like, what, she didn't say she looked like Keira Knightley, but she says that a lot of people say that to her, and she does a really good impression of like, I look quite pretty. And so she was like, why don't we do a Pride and Prejudice sketch? And I'm like, shaboom.
Yay.
I would love to be. Is it Mr. Darcy? I don't know. I haven't seen it in a while. But, you know, we're going to do that. And so, you know, I'm just there. And that is where you're starting to, I hope, be a bit of a tastemaker or a trendsetter in not just fulfilling a static video or something that's about product demo or about even now like thought leadership. Some of it has become quite static. Yeah, and that's kind of what I really think, that as long as you as a collective, the nucleus of the operation, really have a North Star to go towards, then I think basically that's the way in building great brand advocacy internally.
Yeah.
And that's the way that it's actually seeped out into external third parties that you're using.
I was going to say, like, from a sort of like plug and play freelancer perspective, like, is that how you kind of recommend you keep that consistency with that North Star?
100%. Because so, yeah, and to use a quick few examples, we've got great GTM, go-to-market, cold email outbound freelancers. People think cold email outbound is dead. It really isn't. People just need to use it properly. And AI is obviously the big winner in that. We've got like really great specialists who do fantastic copy to get marketing directors, heads of marketing to events. They are bought into it because they're like, these events that we're putting on are atypical. You know, 7-8 people in a delicious environment like the Devonshire. People are like, oh my God, I've never been to the Devonshire. We're like, yeah, we've got a table for you. Or I can't remember the place right now off the top of my head in Chicago where the bear was set and stuff like
Love
that.
that
Going to there and people are like, oh my God, that's really cool. But they're bought in because of that. Similarly, Ian and Jack, who are on the content side, Ian's sort of the creative strategist that helps me write a lot of posts so I can do it at the speed at which we want. A lot of people talk about how I'm able to put out what I'm putting out at the consistency.
Yeah.
And it's thanks to having people like Ian and people like Jack there, but they're bought in because they're trying to actually change or eradicate this view of how B2B marketing is quite boring, right?
Yeah. I want to just switch gears a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about something that I think is like probably one of the biggest fault lines in modern marketing today, which is the whole brand and performance conversation. I think far too long we've got one that's focused on the feelings and one that's focused on kind of like the funnel. But I think both you and I know that that's not the case anymore. And most organizations now still split them, right? What do you think is the risk of them doing that in 2025 and beyond?
I used to be in performance marketing in my previous role as an e-bike retailer. And so we constantly use sort of every fabric of performance marketing, from things like Performance Max through to Meta. And my main struggle with it was the fact that it was obviously just short-term wins. And actually the leads that you get in are such poor quality leads. And actually the agencies that you're working with are giving you like ridiculous numbers of like how many people are clicking on these types of posts. But actually when it comes down to who's actually come through, it's a whole different story, especially within the like, not consumer packages, but consumer package durable space. So like products that are worth sort of £1,000 or £3,000. It's very hard to quantify actually if they've come in for that reason. Then I've gone straight into Passionfruit, which is only brand. We don't put any money into performance at all. Now, what I would say is if anyone is continuing to have a brand team and a performance team that are separate, they really need to start finding a way of putting those teams together.
Yeah.
Like initially, and maybe like, I don't know, having them in the same meeting rooms or having them in the same space that they can work together, because actually it's no longer the case that performance content and organic content is separate. It has to be the case now, courtesy of things like TikTok shops or social commerce nowadays, that those things are aligned. And actually, to be honest, I really do think now that people have broken down the barriers of being like sold to on Instagram and TikTok nowadays. Like, it's weird. A few years ago, content creators, comedy content creators like me, if they put out an ad on their Instagram, they would get like hounded. I kind of believe now it's kind of just accepted. So it's almost like the performance marketing teams really need to have a look at the type of partnerships that they should be able to spring off the organic world and actually just using that type of content. Like if an organic piece of content does really well on your channel, put it on your, just boost it, put it as ads, see what happens.
Yeah.
Because performance marketing came in with such like gusto in sort of the teens, like 2010s upwards. And because in COVID, it was massive, wasn't it? Especially within the consumer world, it was just a huge thing. Like, and as well, because you put in £1 and you knew what you were getting out of it, like from a ROAS perspective, that's what the CEO, the CFO, the founders really care about. Whereas with brands, you generally don't have a clue. I'm so fortunate that I've got a founder in Rafi that sees the long-term benefits of brand. I couldn't be more happy with that, because he's not there going, well, how many leads did we get off that? Now, weirdly, what I do off the back of every post is I will connect with everyone who's liked that post. I will then outreach to them with a personal video message.
Oh, cute.
Which is really intense. It's cute, but it's quite full on.
Yeah, of course.
Because we are deciding that we're not going to go down this performance route. But in order to get the short-term gains out of brand, we need to still, in effect, do a tiny bit of outbound off the back of the work that we're doing. Now, fortunately for me, now I'm getting maybe 5 genuine inbound leads a month from people saying, oh, actually, I've just noticed what you guys do. Do you have time for a call? Sometimes they're ICP, sometimes they're not. But more often, and our leads are split maybe the content that I put out, the content that we put out, Passionfruit, is about 35% of monthly leads, and 65%, 70 is still the events cohort. But yeah, the lion's share is still me outbounding off the back of me doing videos at the moment. But that will compound and end up becoming more and more inbound over the next few years. Of
course, yeah. What do you think D2C brands can learn from some of the stuff that, like some of the examples that you've just shared there? What is like some of the tactics or some of the learnings that they can take to do it from a D2C perspective?
I always use the sort of term of a lot of D2C brands, they treat their social media as if it's the shop front, like the shop window of their shop. And it doesn't sort of reek of personality, really. It seems really contrived. It seems quite attritional. It seems very two-dimensional. You know, loads of brands, and even people that I know, some of my best mates, like they're just putting out photos or videos, like little short form GIFs of their products the whole bloody time. And I'm like, guys, get in front of the camera. Get someone in front of the camera. Dude, there's a great example of someone who nails it. Someone I know. He's called Owen. He's a friend of mine, and he is the co-founder of a business called LuvJus. LuvJus is a canned drink, alcoholic canned drink, predominantly for the gay market, and now they're sort of expanding actually quite rapidly. But he does a whole series on Instagram of just trying to connect to people on a date. That's all he does. He just tries to get 2 people on a date. He's holding a can of LuvJus. He gives them, doesn't even talk about LuvJus.
Yeah.
And it's so engaging. And it's all about people finding love together on the middle of the street, just trying to go on dates. And what you're getting there is you're getting an emotional connection, because at the very start, you're like, oh my God, this person is single.
Yeah.
I'm fully in.
Yeah.
Are we going to find someone for them? And that brings back, naturally, you go back to LuvJus, because you're like, oh, you're connecting 2 people over a drink.
Yeah.
And I think what I would like to see more in the consumer world is like just bringing more of potentially like the employees that work at the company into the fold of what you're doing. I think it would be fab, really. Then again, B2B, we're trying to adopt a lot of stuff that consumer and D2C brands have been doing for a long time. So it kind of works in both ways, I suppose.
Well, let's talk about that in terms of the employee thing, because we are seeing it. We're seeing it obviously in B2B and D2C marketing, and we're seeing it a little bit more in the D2C world. Yeah. But I still think there's that element of like we're scared to never mention the product. Yeah. Whereas we know in the B2B world, we don't really talk about the product. No. If we're doing it right. No. So I suppose like you've already talked about bringing your employees in terms of helping you creating the content. What do you think is the like biggest blockers preventing employees like from creating content in-house? And how do you think we can remove it? Because I know there's probably people that in-house that kind of want to get out there, but I don't know. What are they scared of? What are the barriers?
I think ultimately it does come from the top. And I believe that, people like Gary Vaynerchuk talk about this the whole time. Gary, Jesus, I can't stand him sometimes. Empathy, be empathetic.
What does that mean?
Yeah. What does that mean? I don't know. Just be empathetic. But what he does say is, a boss in 2025 needs to be championing their workforce to go out and create whatever they want to create. Genuinely, no strings attached kind of vibe. Just go out there and do what you want to do. If you want to build out a supper club just off the side, do it on TikTok, do it. Yeah. If you have a really big interest in dogs, golden retrievers, I've got one, go and write about golden retrievers on Substack. You never know where it can get you. And I just believe that marketing teams traditionally, because they own the brand, and founders traditionally, because they are very brand skeptical because it's their baby, don't want a junior brand manager, a brand manager, a senior brand manager to have any say and voice. Also, as soon as the businesses get bigger, they've spent thousands of pounds on brand guidelines, on like various mission statements. They don't want to see the brand in that light.
Yeah.
But, it's about championing your workforce to go out there and maybe make a mistake here and there. It's okay. Today's news is yesterday's story. I always say that to my team. Like, things are never as good or as bad as they first seem. And also, it's all about just being consistent and putting out stuff because ultimately it compounds. So I would just say, like, it just comes down to feeling free within that working environment. And it does come from the top.
Yeah.
Really. Like, we're very lucky that we've got people at the top who allow us to go out with creative autonomy and do things.
Yeah. If you were to switch that though, so it was coming from, the likes of us in the marketing team, we want to be putting ourselves out there, we can see an opportunity. What do you think would be the mindset shift that we would need to present to the people at the top?
Well, I think, rule number one, to be honest, and it sounds a bit basic saying this, but you have to be hitting your own targets, number one, in order for you to even go out there in the first place to ask the question. So whatever you've been brought in to do, just make sure you're nailing that, if I'm just being honest. Because if someone in my team is coming to me and saying, I want to do marketing stunts, and I want to go mad and do, I don't know, Banksies across the wall or something and do something cool, I'm like, great, that sounds like a great idea, providing you're still doing a good job in what you were brought in to do.
Yeah.
And from my side, that is where it kind of ends, to be honest. If you're doing the job and what you're meant to do and you want to open up a new channel, you can do that. I think ultimately it still does come down to mindset. That's it. Mm-hmm. The bosses of 2020, I believe that this is going to get a lot easier because I believe courtesy of media and courtesy of even things like LinkedIn and thought leaders and stuff like that nowadays, people are getting so much more education in how they should champion a great workforce nowadays. Whereas generations before didn't have this access to information.
Yeah.
So the modern day boss is becoming a hell of a lot better in this world. I think you have to play to your strengths. Okay. So what do I mean by that is, obviously with me, my boss told me, he said, Henry, I'm being serious here, mate. You're not going to be a better CMO than the CMO of HubSpot. I said, yeah, you're right. I'm not. Because the CMO of HubSpot is probably some AI-driven nerd. No offense to whoever it is. Okay. He's
a really big listener.
Okay, fine. Really, really big listener. Okay. I think it's Kieran Flanagan. But anyway, okay, let's say it is Kieran. Kieran is an AI nerd, okay, who is so good at the analysis, the analytics, probably has loads of certificates in performance marketing, knows a hell of a lot about attribution funnels, knows a hell of a lot about stuff, okay? I'm not going to be as good at him as that, okay? But he said, what you could be better at, what you will be better than most people in the space is being funny. And I was like, I agree with that. And he said, so go out there and get noise for us because that's how we're going to get awareness. And I was like, oh God, it actually just clicked in a second. I'm like, you're right. I don't need to try and act like a spreadsheet nerd. I hate spreadsheets. I'm terrible at it. I can't add up.
I can't either.
Genuinely, I'm looking at the camera. I'm head of marketing at Series A, about to be Series B startup, and I can't add up. Genuinely. But he says you don't need to. You need to. Your job is to build the awareness. Now, I'll use that like kind of one level down. Eleanor, who got brought into our team 3 months ago, she's an artist. She's a really cool artist. She went to, I think it was Central St. Martin's. Mm-hmm. She just had something about her. Like she had a really good. Rafi, my boss, spends 70% of his time on LinkedIn finding people to come into the company, and he just saw her copy on her LinkedIn profile and the way she wrote, and he was like, that's just different from what I've seen.
Yeah.
So we interviewed her, and she's a really cool artist, and she'd never really done marketing before. And when she came into the business, she's now doing cold like email outbound and outreach, but she's now, as I said, doing these like sketches, and she loves art. So I'm like, why aren't you drawing art, on LinkedIn and like showing people all these restaurants you're going to, all this type of stuff? She said, oh, that's a really good idea. Like play to your strengths basically. Yeah. And then work becomes play, not work. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Just thinking about what my strength is.
What is your strength? Well, podding, no?
No, I'm thinking outside of it. Got a degree in dance.
Hey, love that.
Anyway, we'll leave that there. We'll leave that there.
What's your, what type of...
Contemporary.
Okay, contemporary.
Contemporary.
I love that. That's good.
I did go into street and break dance after that though.
Oh, really? A bit of that?
Well,
okay.
Bit cooler than that.
Okay, a bit cooler than that. Fine. There we are. Yeah, mine's kind of less cool, to be fair. I actually, for my wedding, we did the Napoleon Dynamite dance.
Oh my God.
Yeah. My wife and I, and she had, I had vote for Chesky, which is her name, and
We
she
need
had
to
vote
see
for Henry.
this.
Yeah.
Can we
were
put it
quite
out as
rat-assed at the time, so sounds a lot better than the actual,
I want to see it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into the thing that you're really good at then, the comedy.
Okay. Yeah.
And I suppose, again, let's flip it in terms of what do you think D2C can learn from like this? I think the comedy content often comes across as sort of like fearless, like a fearless tone that I think obviously the B2B world is doing quite well at. So yeah, is there like a formula or a structure that you kind of use when you're building out this whole kind of comedy content machine that you've built?
Yeah, I think it's split really. I think with Instagram and TikTok, that's kind of separate. And that is very much me looking at people on the street the whole time and just observing. And it's quite annoying being in my head because I'm permanently thinking about it. I'll just leave today and I'll have a thought of something and then I'll be writing it. And I write every day. I write for 30 minutes before work every day, just consistently, have done for years now.
Yeah.
When it comes to LinkedIn, I think the main overriding feeling is really to instill like a great emotion in the individual. So if what do I mean as an example? I went over budget in May by about, let's call it 15 grand. It's not loads, but 15 grand over budget. And my boss pulled me in and he was like, you're trying to go for this head of marketing role, which I've now got, thank you. And I was marketing lead at the time, but he went, this isn't really head of marketing material. Like we've got the money, it's okay. But the fact that you've gone over and the fact that you didn't communicate that to me or the FD, not really good enough. So I was like, cool. And then I kind of was watching YouTube and my wife was really into Dido, getting back into Dido. And I saw the Stan video, Stan, Eminem, Dido, and I saw that Eminem and Stan was trying to emulate Eminem by looking like him in the music video.
Yeah.
And I thought, bang, there we are. What if I'm trying to emulate Raffi, the boss, and he wears orange shirts and I'm trying to wear his shirt? And what if I get in a line that's actually true about the fact that I went over budget in May, which is what the whole thing stemmed off. And what I'm trying to get at here is, my creative process is always linked to like the truth. Like if it is actually something that's happening in the working world or in business or stuff, I think it's funnier because I think the people who end up performing it or the creative campaign that ends up being led, actually people find funny, right?
Because they resonate with it more.
Because they resonate with it more. Like, don't try and fabricate something. Ricky Gervais, someone who I like, used to look up to a lot more than I do now, I suppose, but he just says always write what you know, like what, that's really important. And so I think everything that I'm trying to do at Passionfruit kind of that's worked has got that to it. We actually recently did we started to do sketches now. And so like 2-minute, 3-minute actual sketches. And we did one on the Bear for marketers. And I was playing like Jeremy Allen White, and that was all stemmed. The stuff that I was talking about in there was all stemmed off stuff that we really know about. And so I felt really natural talking about it. I've since done one on Succession for marketers, which is, based on sort of Logan Roy. And the script just wasn't quite right. We were just trying to be a bit too silly and it didn't quite land enough. And I wasn't actually comfortable with it myself doing it. But I thought I'd give it a go. And lo and behold, it didn't perform as well. So that's what I would say. Normally, route one is always just to find out what like the truth is in it and then build out from there.
Why do you think DC brands are so scared of it?
Because of brand image, because of their brand image. It's incredibly hard for D2C brands who are trying to, either they're big legacy brands. Yeah. They have years behind them. Chanel, Dior, my dad's in the cosmetic space. These people have marketing teams that are the nucleus of the operation in France or in wherever. And so they are just terrified of not doing anything that isn't by the book, aka some sort of shitty newspaper advert with, I don't know, Margot Robbie on it.
Yeah.
Boring, okay? Or like David Gandy getting his kiss off in Sicily. I've seen it once, I've seen it twice, I've seen it 3 times, David. Okay? Doesn't mean I wouldn't want to shag you. I'm joking. Okay?
I was going to say, you'd see it 4th time, right?
Yeah, I'll see it 4 times, to be fair. In fact, David, keep on doing that one. Okay? But, you know, you just know what you're going to get with a lot of these businesses. I'm trying to think of like real disruptors in the D2C space. And what they're doing differently. I think, you know, a company that's doing really well at the moment in the UK is Perfect Ted. They are a matcha drink.
Yeah.
And what I really like about them is like a very much, and I've never spoken to them, but they have a really good omni-channel content sort of flywheel.
Yeah.
And their content on their consumer channels is very personality led, but they're doing neat collabs. Like they did one with the hardest geezer who ran across Africa, and they were there for that. Like they were really built into the lifestyle. And I think like the great D2C brands nail lifestyle, you know, like your Patagonias, your Arc'teryx and stuff like that. I'm like big YouTube subscribers to those because it's all about the lifestyle.
Yeah.
And a little canned drink from England have just cottoned on to someone like the hardest geezer. Brilliant, win-win. But then their content from a B2B standpoint is brilliant as well, because they're really giving you access to the personalities behind the business and what they're doing. They're not just showing you the chuffing cans the whole time.
Yeah.
So I've really got off on a tangent in a Rory Sutherland way, and I can't even remember what the first question was there.
I can't, but I was really interested in what you were saying.
Yeah. Where's my vape for Sutherland? Sorry.
You were thinking about disruptive brands that were doing it well and I suppose it was like, why are they scared of it? And it was,
that's it. Why are they scared of it? I just think, there's that side to it. And then I think there's also an element with direct consumer brands of people having a vision of how they want it to look, but then actually the consumer themselves has an entirely different approach of what they want. And when we talk to brands who are trying to go out and do stuff, the reason why we talk about these shots on goal being so important is put out 4 content pillars, okay? 4 content pillars you think are going to be good. Let's use this Perfect Ted drink as an example. Yeah. Personality-led one to do with founder, everything green in the city because things are green with matcha. I don't know, Wimbledon or something, a sport, and then one other thing like I don't know, other type of products that you associate with that, so you get that right. Let's put out 1 video a day, let's say on TikTok, that hit those 4 pillars. Do that across 3 months. You'll find out the 2 out of those 4 that are worth, that the customer themselves have then gone, I actually like that content.
Yeah. I
want to be fed more of that, and then run with it. But the problem is you yourself have an image yourself of how you want the brand to be perceived. And it comes back to the starting point I wanted to raise, which is you are not the customer. All of us on LinkedIn right now, Andrew Tyndall did a really good post on this last week.
I love that guy.
Yeah, we're not the customer. Like, we need to get our head out of our arse. Everyone, the Jeremy Clarkson video goes up, you know, off. And I was like, oh, the LinkedIn customer's like, this is brilliant. It's like 80% of ads that are still being watched in the UK are on linear TV. We're there saying, you know, oh, it's all on phones. And we believe, because we're LinkedIn marketers, that we have the answer. No, we don't. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, how arrogant of us to think that. So when you're building a D2C brand, go out there and just push out everything you've got, and some of it will stick. And that's what you've got to work on for your next year until you maybe come up with another idea or something, because that's the way that your brand is being perceived.
Yeah, great advice. Is humour a tactic or a tone?
100% a tactic. But what I would say is there's an overriding principle that needs to be adopted, which is, you know, you've got to have taste. And I'm not just saying that. It's like, you've certain comedians or certain content creators have taste and others don't. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's really imperative that you understand and be cautiously optimistic about the end user. Mm-hmm. So if I was going to use an example, I actually have it here. I basically put out a video. I'm about to put out a video. By the time this is out, it'll obviously be out. And it's called POV, How Everyone Acts on LinkedIn. Okay? It's 40 seconds. Now, on LinkedIn, I've got 4 out of the 5 clips are exactly the same. But I've got one in there about an engagement pod or whatever on LinkedIn. On Instagram, but like on Instagram, I've done a bit about, you know how like porn sites now, you need to like put in, you know how you have to do selfies and you have to put like your age verification. This is the thing that's literally just landed a week ago and it's become very big news and it's all over the press. Now, I can't put that on LinkedIn, but I can put that on Instagram.
Yeah.
So it just comes back to understanding who your audience is.
Good
That's
point.
really, really important. And I think a lot of people don't get that. A lot of people are just putting out the same stuff on loads of different channels and expecting the same results.
I think it's because we're being told to repurpose, right? But
Yes,
actually
exactly.
repurposing is not just as like straightforward as that. You know, we have got, you know, our audiences on this different platform want different things from these platforms.
100%. And that is my biggest bugbear, but also the thing that I love challenging myself the most towards, because people find it very odd that I do all of this Instagram and TikTok stuff that I never put on LinkedIn and vice versa. None of my LinkedIn stuff. This will be the first LinkedIn post that I put on Instagram and TikTok. The first I ever mentioned LinkedIn as a post. And I've been doing LinkedIn comedy now for 7 months because I'm just so skeptical of I'm just so skeptical of that end user and wanting to ensure the end user like actually enjoys what I'm doing. And I just know that they wouldn't if I'm just putting out the same stuff and, to your point, repurposing the whole time. Yeah,
of course. Okay, so just kind of zooming out a little bit, you've said that Passionfruit is helping put the power back in individual hands.
Yeah.
What are the structural problems do you see in the current agency model?
So the way I would answer this is actually, how would I like for the marketing world to be ran in 5 years' time? And whilst I believe that there are certain agencies out there that are doing all right in this, what I really think that they are struggling with, which is why the share prices of all of these big companies going down, is they're not as specialized as certain individuals now who are really leading the forefront in certain areas, number one. Number two, long-term agency retainers are problematic for constrained marketing teams nowadays who need to move at the speed of culture. And more importantly, the individual who is right at the bottom of the pile of these agencies, who are the smart, bright individuals of tomorrow, are being paid a pittance in comparison to the boards at the top. And the likes of the biggest companies in the world, be them B2B or D2C, are shelling out a huge amount of cash to essentially people in boardrooms that they ultimately shake hands with at Cannes, okay? Yeah. And then they're under a 5-year deal and they don't know where their money's going from. The little 22-year-old kid who's bright, who's just done a bit of copy on some sort of campaign, and that campaign's being sold for $100,000 back to the brand, that person's not getting anything out of it. Yeah. And so what I would really love to see, and it's what Passionfruit is trying to strive towards in the fullness of time, is making the world work for everyone and actually democratizing the value put on the specialist. So we will know, courtesy of our AI-driven platform, plug, that really that individual, what their like monetary value is as against the work that they're doing. And actually the more work they do, or the higher they go up the ladder, or the more campaigns they do, whatever, increases their chance of actually what their rates will be and how much they actually are legitimately in actual sterling, as opposed to them not earning what they need to be earning, or similarly being far up above what they're meant to be being. Like, I'm going to make it quite serious. I'm head of marketing at Passionfruit. I do certain things, but I'm not brilliant in loads of areas. God knows, like we're all not. Yeah. And so I may be put on a pedestal if I leave Passionfruit one day and get paid way more the asking price than what I deserve, purely on the fact that I've got a few followers on LinkedIn. Yeah. No, like you need to come back to the democratization of the people at hand who are working within those environments. Yeah. And I think that is where marketing really can go, courtesy of AI. And it's what we're trying to do as sort of the leading marketing operations platform for the 21st century.
And so needed.
Exactly.
So needed.
Yeah.
Henry, this has been awesome. I wish we had longer, but thank you so much. If anyone wanted to get in touch, where would they find you?
Oh, thanks, Verity. So first up on LinkedIn, Henry Hayes. I'm on Instagram and TikTok at Henry Hayes Comedy, and at Passionfruit, really. So give us a follow on LinkedIn. But yeah, thanks a lot. It's been fab chatting. I've absolutely loved it.
Awesome.
Wicked.
Thank you.
Cheers.
That was another episode of Building Brand Advocacy, the world's top brand building podcast. To find out more about building brand advocacy and how this podcast is part of a bigger plan for our brand building cookbook, then make sure to search for Building Brand Advocacy in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere else that podcasts are found, and make sure that you click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks to Duel for sponsoring. To find out more, go to www.duel.tech, that's duel.tech. And on behalf of the team here at Building Brand Advocacy, thanks for listening.